Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahawashi, Bahasham, Brakahakodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah 49 verse 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and the biblical Edomites are known today as these so-called white people. Your Americans, British, Europeans, Russians, etc., etc., and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And that least of the flock is speaking of those Amalekite Edomites over in the Holy Land right now, calling themselves the people of the Most High, whom for the rest of the video I'll be referring to as the 1948ers. And as it says, the least of the flock shall draw them out. Those 1948ers are going to do something to instigate a war against Iran, which is going to drag in their main puppet, the United States of America, in on their side, as well as these other NATO nations. And on the side of Iran, it's going to drag in their allies like Russia and China. And this is all going to play into the bigger battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, the main part of World War III in Joel chapter 3. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface a clip from Fox News' YouTube channel titled, Netanyahu, this will make the Middle East a nuclear powder keg. And as we'll see in this clip, Benjamin Netanyahu, the former prime minister of the 1948er state, is saying that something needs to be done and will be done to stop Iran's nuclear program. And again, hey, this is just Jeremiah 49 verse 20 playing out right before your very eyes, the least of the flock drawing them out. And over these past couple of months, we've seen the 1948ers really get prepared for an inevitable military operation against Iran. They had the Chariots of Fire drill, which saw all branches of their military simulate attacks against Iran and its proxy forces. And I can't remember whether this was a part of Chariots of Fire or not, but the 1948ers and the U.S. were involved in drills that simulated U.S. refueling planes, helping Israeli fighter jets for long-range missions, which again was mainly aimed at targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. And the 1948ers just inked a deal with the U.S. to buy 4 long-distance refueling planes for such operations. So the Most High is setting all the pieces in play to eventually lead to that battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat in Joel chapter 3. This is Joel chapter 3 verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the heathen Gentiles, which is exactly what the true men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS are doing, by going out onto the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, proclaiming amongst the heathen Gentiles to prepare for war against Iran, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, World War III, nuclear war, because World War III will go nuclear. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And an example I just gave was that Chariots of Fire drill. And then also you've got Russia with their military assets in the Middle East, in Syria, due to them helping Bashar al-Assad during the Syrian civil war. And then also you've got U.S. military personnel in Iraq and Syria as well. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. The United States of America, the 1948ers, Iran, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, these European nations, these other NATO nations, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. And these mighty ones are speaking of the death angels of the Most High, waiting to get the go-ahead to release this great destruction, which is mainly going to happen after the RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT, which is the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, is mandatorily implemented. And we can see that we're getting closer and closer to the rollout and eventual mandatory implementation of the Charagma. You've got all these different countries talking about implementing CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies, which is just a stepping stone towards the Charagma. And then in mainstream media outlets, they're starting to talk about CHIP IMPLANTs. Just look at companies like Walletmore, that company in Sweden that was talking about using CHIPs for buying and selling, as well as putting your C19 verification info on it. And then just recently on CNN, you had a man on there talking about how he used his CHIP to open up his Tesla car, unlock the front doors to his house, and that he would like to put his credit card information on it to buy and sell with it. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh's Shabbat, or Yahweh's judgment. And when you go to the first couple of verses in this chapter, you'll see why the Most High is gathering these heathens down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, to judge them for afflicting the apple of his eye, the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And at the top of that list of the heathen nations that have afflicted the children of Israel, as pursuant to Psalms chapter 83, are you Edomites, and you Amalekite Edomites are also mentioned as well. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Verse 13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. And when we hear about information talking about the Charagma in the news, or see clips like what we're about to watch on Fox News, we know that the day of Yahweh is very near in the valley of decision. And I'm going to probably play about the first 6 minutes of this clip. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Unbelievable. So let's bring in Benjamin Netanyahu on a different note. He's the former prime minister and maybe future prime minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, great to see you. I know as you're very familiar with American politics and American issues, and immigration means a lot, but I know first and foremost, you're as concerned as many other clear-thinking people about the deal we're about to re-enter with Iran on this nuclear proliferation. Could you tell me what your greatest concern is at this hour?
I think this is a horrible deal, a dangerous deal that will pave Iran's path with gold, a golden paved highway to a nuclear arsenal. If Iran has nuclear weapons, they don't merely threaten my country, Israel, or the entire Middle East and America's allies. They threaten you directly, because simultaneously with developing nuclear weapons, they're developing the means to deliver them across continents. So you could have in Iran, governed by these fanatic ayatollahs, who will hold every American city hostage to nuclear weapon.
They can't be too fanatical considering the 1948 government's attitude towards those Palestinian Arabs or Ishmaelites over in the Gaza Strip or in the Holy Land with their genocidal campaign towards them.
I think this is a threat to the peace of the world, and that's what this horrible deal facilitates. It's even worse than the first one.
Why? Why is it worse?
Well, because, President Obama, in a moment of candor, said in a PBS interview in 2015 that by 2027, that's 5 years from now. Iran will have a breakout time to a bomb that is near zero. That's his words, not mine. And he was right. This deal is much closer to that time frame, and it gives Iran right now, within 2 years, they can develop up to within 4 years, starting 2 years from now, they can develop added enrichment capacity of uranium, 3,500 advanced centrifuges that each is 10 to 20 times stronger and more effective than the centrifuges that they have. They have about 5,000, so you're adding an enormous capacity to enrich uranium. That's the critical element of making nuclear bombs. The deal gives it to them. It gives them, right now, hundreds of billions of dollars, and by the end of the agreement, $1 trillion to pursue their terror and aggression against everyone, against you and against us. This is what the deal gives them. What does it ask of them? Nothing.
Like the terror and aggression that the U.S. and the 1948ers have been committing against a bunch of different nations in the Middle East. Syria, Iraq, and then eventually Iran. Remember what General Wesley Clark said probably about damn near 20 years ago when he said that the U.S. planned to attack 5 different countries in 7 years, which included Iran, Syria, and Iraq. And that was all just part of the bigger, greater ISRAL project, the Oded Yinon plan, where the US and the 1948ers want to balkanize the Middle East and make all those different nations weak so that the 1948ers will be the sole strong hegemon in the region, having nobody to come up against them.
It doesn't ask of them to change their behavior, to stop terror, to stop calling for the destruction of Israel, to stop bombing the neighborhood countries like Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. It doesn't ask of them anything. It doesn't stop
like
their
they'll do
development
Syria
of ballistic missiles. It doesn't even guarantee that their sites will be inspected. This is a deal that gives them everything to threaten all of us and gives nothing to us in return.
So that's why you're calling on the White House to reject the nuke deal. But you know, the Obama-Biden administration people, a lot of them are now in the Biden-Harris administration. They want that deal. Have you called Joe Biden? Have you called Kamala Harris? Have you called anybody in authority and said, hey, are you guys crazy?
I've talked to President Biden when he was vice president and when he was president. I've talked to him many times about the danger of this deal. I think that right now you can talk to the administration, but I think from their point of view, this deal is done. What's important is to understand this. Deal or no deal, I will do, if I'm elected, and I think there's a very good chance that I'll be reelected in a few months from now, we have to ensure that we will take whatever action is necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. That's my necessary. To prevent Iran from ensure that we will take whatever action is necessary. Sure that we will take whatever action is necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. That's my commitment.
We will take whatever action is necessary to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. And really, what would be the only way to keep Iran from continuing with their nuclear program? A military strike, which is exactly what the 1948ers have been preparing for. And it doesn't matter who becomes prime minister or who is prime minister. Naftali Bennett, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Bear Jew, the Golem, anybody. It's all through the will of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai for these things to take place, and whatever leader is in power for him to have the spirit to conduct an operation against Iran, which is going to be the least of the flock drawing them out. This is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 1. The king's heart or mind is in the hand of Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So again, the leader doesn't matter. It's all through the power of the Most High to put the Spirit on them to do his will and fulfill prophecy.
I've devoted a good part of my life to slowing down holding back their nuclear program in a variety of means, and I'm going to continue that way. And I encourage the American public and the American people, the American representatives, I hope the administration too, but I don't give it a big chance, to not to sign the deal, but if it's signed, to get out of it as soon as possible. That's already happened before. It could happen again.
Mr. Prime Minister, we know that during the process of this negotiation period, the Iranian negotiator for this deal has been bragging that they've missed the deadline 11 different times in Vienna with the talks. The Biden administration has allowed them to do that with no consequence. We also know that they've tried to carry out a number of assassinations on American soil throughout this process. As you said, it seems like the deal is going to get done by the Biden administration. The Middle East now, thanks to the Abraham Accords, is a different place than it was 2 years ago. So how are the countries in the region working together in ways they weren't before to prevent Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon and continuing their terror?
Well, you're quite right that we're united in the region. We live here, we understand the enormous threat to have these fanatic ayatollahs armed with nuclear weapons that would be aimed initially at us and subsequently at you. We all understand that. I did fashion, with President Trump's help, the Abraham Accords that made peace between Israel and 4 Arab states. That peace was based not only on the good things that Israeli technology can bring to their lives, to the lives of their citizens, but also on the fact that we share a common interest to stop Iran. How to stop Iran is something I won't get into it, but I will say this. If you don't have a credible military threat against Iran's nuclear program, you essentially have nothing.
If you don't have a credible military threat against Iran's nuclear program, you essentially have nothing. Again, the least of the flock shall draw them out. And this isn't a pro-Iran, anti-1948er video or vice versa. I'm against all these different heathens, but I'm for them at the same time in regards to them fulfilling prophecy. I want the 1948ers to attack Iran, and I want Iran to attack whatever nations as well. I want the United States of America to do the same, as well as Russia. So again, they can bring forth the prophecies of the Most High and bring about the downfall of their kingdoms and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven.
Who had a credible military threat or action, as we took against Iraq and against Syria's attempt to develop nuclear weapons, and as you threatened Gaddafi. That's why he didn't develop. It worked. You didn't have such a threat against North Korea. It didn't work. They signed the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's worthless. These people cheat. And if you get to the point where they are inches away from loading their enriched uranium into the nuclear cores of nuclear bombs, you have nothing you can do. So you have to be prepared. We all have to be prepared to take whatever action is necessary, with a deal, without a deal. I'm not going to be, and Israel will not be, a signatory or partner to this horrible deal. We will do whatever is necessary to defend our country, to defend our citizens, and I'm telling you, to defend the world.
And I'll tell you, Mr. Prime Minister, if they...
Point blank period. Biblical prophecy taking place right before our very eyes. And that's it with this clip. And one more point I want to make before I close out the video is this just further shows that those 1948ers over there aren't the true children of the Most High, because according to prophecy, when the true children of Israel were back in the Holy Land, war would no longer take place on the earth. But ever since those 1948ers got in there, what have you seen? Chaos, war. Immediately after, there was the Arab-Israeli War in 1948. Then you had the 6 Days War, which you have the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Desert Storm, the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the Syrian Civil War, the Libyan Civil War, the war in Ukraine, their constant conflict with those Palestinian Arabs in the Gaza Strip, and World War III. The battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat hasn't even taken place yet. But this is Micah chapter 4, verses 1 to 3. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains. And in the scriptures, mountains can be symbolic for governments. And the mountain of the house of Yahweh is the kingdom of heaven being established, beginning with the elect. of the nation of Israel, the first fruits of the kingdom of heaven, and at the head of that is the 144,000. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. It shall be the sole government and rulership for the rest of eternity. No other heathen nation will come up and usurp the kingdom or rulership from the children of Israel. And many nations, many heathen nations, shall come and say, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. And do you see the majority of the people on this planet following after the ways of the 1948ers, wearing yarmulkes, Shirley Temple curls, reading out of the Talmud, or speaking Yiddish? Of course you don't, because again, they're not the people of the book. You've got a lot of these different nations against those 1948ers due to their treatment of the Palestinians, as well as for them constantly fomenting for war against Iran. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. And we're not seeing the law go forth of Zion, or the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. They have a parliament and government which with its own laws, which are separate from the scriptures. And then they've got kosher pork over there. And Tel Aviv is known as Pink City, and it's one of the pride hotspots on the entire planet. Verse 3, and he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And again, we can clearly see that war is still taking place in this earth with those 1948ers in the Holy Land, and that World War III, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, hasn't even started yet. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.